Okay, so we're starting with the front. So can you see the whole pattern? Okay, so here we have my front pattern. Remember I had a piece of paper underneath that I cut this with. I saved the paper that I cut underneath, and I'm going to tape, I'm going to pin what I drew on top of it. Okay, now one thing that I need to be very conscious when I do this, on the leg opening I did not overlock, on the armholes I did not overlock, on the neck I did not overlock. I need to pin it exactly on the edge of the paper, but on the sides, on the crotch, and then on the shoulders I did cut 1/8. So I'm going to start pinning at 1/8 away. It might ripple or do weird things on it because remember we were stretching it out. I'm going to try to ignore that and just follow the edge of the pattern. Okay? If you were to use a woven fabric, you would have gone and pressed it and it would flatten down. With this, it does absolutely nothing. Okay? If you ever put on elastic and you feel that the elastic have stretched out, give it some heat on steam. It usually will make the elastic shrink back again. Okay?
It doesn't flatten, is it because of the fibers or because it's a knit?
It has spandex and it has a knit.
But other knits do flatten or not? They should.
It's not a woven fabric. It's not going to behave the same way. And this is the reason why I wanted to do swimwear, because that way you guys can get to experience what knits are about. Her sweatshirt, will behave a lot more like closer to, and even though it behaves like a knit, it also will behave as a woven because the fabric is so much thicker and firmer, where this is, slime, right? So I'm gonna go around and I'm gonna continue pinning. See, my neckline is exactly in the same spot on the edge where I cut. And you're all gonna tell me, but she's strapless, it's much lower than that. Who cares? For now, you just wanna pin it back to where it was. Look at how listen, I pride myself that I have very sharp pins. Look at when I pin it, how sometimes it drags the fabric. That's because of the spandex. Spandex is a pain on the tush. It's probably easy to fit, but it's very hard to handle. And when you make your pattern, you need to maintain baselines and standards so you can reproduce it. That's where it becomes a little bit challenging. Does that make sense? So keep in mind that we did cut in some places and we did not cut in some places. What I'm saying is keep in mind is because when you're going to add seam allowance, when we cut and we didn't cut is going to determine if we add seam allowance or not. Does that make sense? Okay. So if we were to have the same leg opening as the pattern, I wouldn't add any seam allowance to it. On the side, I wouldn't add any seam allowance to it. But at the top of the panty and then the other parts, I do, because I'm redoing a new seam in there. You see how it's stretched out? So I'm going to try to get it into place. Sometimes the pin angle on itself, it would force me, so you just take your pin off and you put it back again. That looks fairly okay? Yes? Are we all happy so far? Yeah. Okay. So, what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna get the pizza cutter, and now I'm going to trace the lines that I drew. Okay? In no time, I'm going to be cutting the fabric of this leotard. And I took in here on the side. Notice that I took in more on this side than that side. I'm going to show you how to average it out because I don't want the boobs to be twisting. Does that make sense? Yeah, I don't think it's a good thing to have twisted boobs. Now, here is something that you need to pay attention. Look, I have a line where I'm doing my new panty, but this section I didn't touch. Why am I saying to pay attention to that? Because this section has seam allowance, but this line doesn't. So if I'm going to be blending it in, this line should be blending into the 3/8 here. Yes? Does that make sense? So this is going to come like that. And let's say this is 3/8. This is going to come like that. Okay? Just be conscious of those things. So in reality, these two leg openings should be symmetric, even though the top is asymmetric because I'm going to add pleats. Yes? I feel like Chef Boyardee doing pizza. I'm going to flip it because I want to make sure that I did not forget to make any lines. So I have this leg opening, I have this leg opening, I have the waist, I have the waist, I have the top, the sides, the top, and the sides. If you have spaghetti straps or any kind of strap that is just a band, you do not draw it in here. If your shoulder has a shape, then you do, because you have to make a pattern. But if it's a continuous band, we're just going to make continuous bands. Does that make sense?
So you don't have to draw the pleats?
The pleats, I'm going to make them later, after I get this pattern, because I don't want to have the pleats on my lining. So I'm going to have a pattern with the pleats, and we're going to have a pattern flat.
Are you gonna
Slash and spread.
stitch
Correct.
them first and then stitch them?
Say it again?
Are you gonna stitch the pleats first and then stitch them?
No, you're going to line it. So probably the lining doesn't need to have pleats, because then it's going to be bulky.
Right.
Yeah, but I need to keep them in place.
No, this is what the difference is. This material is stretchy, so you don't need that foundation structure. When you put them on, your body itself is going to stretch them out, and they're going to fit perfectly. Does that make sense? Because remember, this is not what you did, for example, on your design 2, that you were doing a couple of stitches to hold the pleats in place. There is no tacking on swimwear.
Really?
Because if you do that, it's always going to pull in a weird way. So it has to lay flat on its own. Does that make sense? Okay. So now
So
that
will the lining have the pleats too, or
No.
only the
yes,
only
yeah,
the self?
only the self. You don't want it to be double fabric
Right.
with pleats, and you rather have the lining as a foundation, because the pleats are on the outside as your embellishment.
Right.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I need the right and the left identical, correct?
Wait. So what we do?
You want to stop it and start it again so it's not as big?